Mertesdorf is our strategy guide and guru for this episode. Strategy, that's what we talk about. If you're a college student, recent grad, or in the middle of your career looking to learn more about strategy, maybe break into strategy, keep on listening. Kelly talks us through her journey from account management to VCU brand center to strategist. She tells us stories and lessons, and we speak practically on how to expedite the process so you're not wasting your time or your money. Her first job was at TBWA Chiat Day in Los Angeles, and she's worked at agencies large and small, including Crispin Porter and Pogusky, McDonald's, Bailey Lauerman, McKinney, and Deutsch. She's even worked on a Super Bowl campaign, which we love to talk about. She's so good right now that she works for herself, and she is the strategy lead at Denver Ad School, the industry's up-and-coming creative powerhouse dojo. Everybody's talking about it. Go check out our last episode with the founders. But we go through it all this episode. Kelly's amazing. To follow her and connect with her and become the ultimate strategist and see her recommended resources, go to our Instagram, Entering Ad. Once again, Entering Ad. And now this is the Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast. And as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberg. Kick it, Mikey. Welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast. I am super excited. Mikey's been excited. Buchin, our creative director, he's been excited about this episode. Kelly, you're like an all-star, legendary strategist in the industry. Is that fair or is that too much?
I've never been called legend, but I will take it and introduce myself that way from now on.
There you go. Well, yeah, you should. That'd be interesting if somebody was like, "Yeah, I'm a legend." They said that'd be interesting. You do what? Where are you working now? Tell the people, which is interesting. You caught my attention. We were talking about before. What recent change has been made in your life?
Yeah, so I work for myself now. What you said is accurate. I worked for a lot of big agencies in Los Angeles for a while in strategy. And then took some turns and corners and worked for a media tech startup and opened an office for an agency out of Omaha in Los Angeles. Made it to Colorado to work for Crispin, and then started working for myself at the end of 2019. So now I still freelance for Crispin, but I also freelance for a lot of different agencies and clients and on a variety of brands.
Interesting. Because a lot of the guests that we have on are mid-entry to mid-level, like agency folk, whether they're mainly either account or on the creative side. You're our first legendary strategist, let's say that, who's working for yourself. What is that like? What's the day in the life of a freelance strategist?
Yeah, well, just like an advertising life, when you're on multiple accounts and just across the trajectory of an advertising project, it totally varies. But right now, with me working on Fruit of the Loom at Crispin, we're working on a whole new rebranding campaign for them. So most people can't say anything about Fruit of the Loom other than the Fruit Guys or my dad's Tidy Whities, things like that. So we're really trying to establish a strong point of view and sort of brand refresh for them. So that's what I'm working on. I'm also, I do some work with the innovation divisions of some companies like Purina and Ocean Spray. So I work with them on product concepts that they have for 5 to 10 years out. And we do a lot of consumer research and testing to get consumer feedback on those ideas to shape them and make them better.
Wow. So what are you working on now? Any secret products that you could spill to our audience? There are not that many listeners out there. We won't tell. If you got anything,
Yeah, Purina has a really strong legal team, and I'm under NDA, but I can tell you it has something to do with dogs and their DNA.
Wow. Interesting. Piece that together. If you're a listener, reach out and let's see. Maybe if we guess it, you can tell us. I don't think that's how NDAs work, but that's you caught my attention, so I'm sure you caught some others. Awesome. So product development, research and development for products 5 to 10 years from now. So you're thinking future. How does that have to deal with strategy and being a legendary strategist?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, the bread and butter of strategy, the process starts in research where you're learning everything you can about your client, your consumer, your culture, and the competitive set of your client.
Hmm.
Then you're taking these tons and tons of information, distilling that into what are called insights. And then that becomes the foundation of the creative brief. So in strategy, our most famous deliverable is the creative brief, and that's what art direction copywriting teams go and concept off of. And from there, we kind of serve as a sounding board to creative ideas, provide fodder, help inspire the evolution of ideas, and then in large part help sell those ideas into clients. And then we also touch sort of measurement and optimization strategy. So once a campaign is live, how are we going to track if it's actually effective? And then how do we update and optimize the creative to make it perform even better? So that's kind of strategy in a nutshell. But because that within an agency, the process starts with research, that's how I've been hired to do kind of different types of consumer research. So
Yes.
yeah.
Now, are you digging in your own research? You have to be familiar with some different tools, I'm sure. What are you proficient in, and what do you recommend students get a good understanding on? ComScore was one I personally used. Hated ComScore. Don't like ComScore. Am I doomed for strategy in the future because I don't like ComScore? Tell me, please.
I've never used ComScore. Maybe we had, like, in advertising agencies, we have syndicated resources. So like you pay for a subscription, probably it sounds like ComScore might be like that.
What the school?
Um,
Yeah, that's what our school probably bought into.
Cool. Yeah, there's what we use a lot is Mintel, which just kind of gives you an overview of an industry, what's happening in the auto industry, who's shopping in it. Simmons data, Nielsen Simmons data is a syndicated source that gives you quantitative data. But in strategy, really, like, your most meaningful and original insights and briefs are going to come from primary research. So actually going out, talking to people, doing ethnographic research where you're spending a day in their life, looking at how, following them as they shop for salad dressing, for example, and really starting to get to know them on a really authentic and genuine level. And you start to learn about their attitudes and values and things like that. And the reason that's important is most agencies have access to those syndicated third party sources. So
Yeah.
they all have the same information. So the way to get to kind of original thinking and truly creative campaigns, a good start is to actually talk to people, real people.
Yeah, that primary research is super important. Whether that's like an in-depth interview, a focus group. I think what else do we learn?
Yeah.
Uh, Observational studies, like you said, walking into a grocery store and sitting there for like 2 hours in the walking around, taking notes or mental notes. That's probably where that creativity comes from. Like you said, that's so interesting. What is like an insight in your career that you're super proud of that led to some super creative work?
Yeah. Okay. So this is back on Fruit of the Loom. And we designed, so it was selling Fruit of the Loom at the holidays during, yeah, Christmas, Hanukkah, that season. And who
Run me
wants,
through the process. Run me through like what were you thinking? Like I'm in the creative room with you. So go ahead.
yeah, so we got the brief. We need to sell underwear, Fruit of the Loom underwear for
Sure.
Christmas. Um, and who wants to receive Fruit of the Loom underwear as a gift, like a big holiday gift? It's
Okay.
a challenge. So we designed, you could call it a focus group, but the way we designed it was as a white elephant gift exchange. So we
Mhm.
had Fruit of the Loom underwear as a gift. We had other really common gifts like candles, a bottle of liquor, a
Mhm.
picture frame, a calendar, things like that. And what we wanted to see in that white elephant dynamic is when someone received the underwear, first of all, what's their reaction? Like,
Yeah.
ugh, why did I get this, or not? And then like how fast does it get traded and for what? Like kind of where does it rank within?
Oh, that's so smart.
It
Yep.
was cool, yeah.
So what'd you find out?
So what we found out was very surprising. Um, what came out was a discussion around um, just bad gifts overall, and like when they're well intentioned, but like your grandmother gives you an ugly cat sweater, or like
Okay.
everybody kind of shared the worst gift they've ever gotten. Like somebody got a bag of like used pens from his grandmother,
Oh,
for
okay.
example, or like your
Very
mom
bad.
goes on vacation and brings back a piece of jewelry that's expensive, but like not your style.
Sure.
And the insight was around bad gift guilt. So you get these gifts and the emotion is you feel guilty. Like, what do I have to wear this? Like, do I throw it away? Do I take it to Goodwill? Like it's from someone special, but
Mhm.
you know, I feel I don't know what to do with this and I feel bad about it. So that became pivotal for the campaign where Fruit of the Loom underwear, like everybody was like, no, I'd be fine. I'd be fine getting Fruit of the Loom underwear because at least it's something I can use.
If
Uh,
it's yeah, fresh, it's yeah,
yeah. So it was sort of like the brief became
a brief
yeah,
of
about
briefs.
bad gift guilt. Like no, this is a no-brainer. Stick it under the tree, stick it in the stocking, and you don't have to worry about.
So there was no so the you uncovered that there is no bad the gift guilt to clean clothes. Like like you don't have to worry about that with Fruit of the Loom.
There's no guilt with utility gifts. Like as long as
Ah,
you use it.
I can use this. Hey, like this isn't gonna go to waste.
Yep.
I like that. So
And then the one of the ideas, we didn't produce it, but it was
Mhm.
around um, how many bad gifts we'd save from the landfill if more people gave Fruit of the Loom underwear and just used like the no-brainer of a gift.
Yeah, yep, that's smart. I could see that coming on to some creative executions as well. Same thought process you might have even came up with. I'm sure you did. Was you would reduce regifting.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, because that's a
Can't
thing.
give those can't give used underwear. Or
I got an uncle that regifts in within the same side of the family. He doesn't even forgets who he got it from, and he put it back. He puts it back in the same white elephant every year.
that's so funny.
Yeah, maybe it's a intentional, but it's pretty funny. It's like, oh, we got the scraper again. It's like a heated car scraper that is like those old cigarette lighters that nobody has a use for. But
Everybody just like groan.
yeah. Very cool though. Very cool. And I like the idea that you guys set up a realistic environment where you can get genuine reaction. Because sometimes when you set up these focus groups or these experiments, they're not accurate because they're not based off truth, and you're not creating a human environment, and that's a very human friendly environment, that Yankee swap white elephant exchange.
Yeah, you're so right. That's a good insight. Yeah, when you have simulated environments, you're gonna
Mhm.
get kind of calculated potentially responses.
There was a the Truth Lies in Advertising book. Have you ever heard of that one?
Hmm.
I think that was that book. They would, for the focus group, they would send the focus group members like the product to use for a week before, so they actually got to exchange with it and
Yeah, cool.
use that. But anyways, so that's awesome. Let's get back now to let's bring it back to how you got into advertising. How did you break in? You mentioned you graduated and then you did an account stint and then went back to VCU Brand Center. Tell us
That's
about that and how you got into strategy, because we're all dying to know. I think that's what people learn in college is how to be a strategist, and then you don't start off being a strategist. So you did it. You're a legend. How do we get there?
yeah, it's really competitive to get into advertising overall, and then strategy is
It's like
even more competitive. Um,
yes. Yep.
discipline. So, all right, here's my journey. So, when I was in middle school, my mom got Vanity Fair magazine, and the articles are super dense, but I really loved the print ads. And I was like, these are beautiful works of art. And I'd put them on my wall and put them in portfolios. And I really liked commercials. I liked music videos. I liked movie trailers. I liked short form video basically, but I didn't have that language yet. But I came from a small town. Like I knew 3 jobs. I knew like law, medicine, and the general world of business. So the idea of making ads, like I was like, I don't know who does this or how you do this. Like I can do movie screenwriters write ads. I have no idea. So it was just kind of like, I like ads. That's fine. Went to school for 2 years undergrad, and somebody at lunch said they were studying advertising. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like that's a legitimate field of study at a major university. And once I found that out, went straight into the journalism program, concentration in advertising. 2 years later, I'm graduating, talk to career services, and I'm like, hey, I'm ready to be a copywriter. Where do I get a job? Like, where do I apply? And they, at Chapel Hill, they told me, you need to go to a portfolio school if you want to be a copywriter, which is what I thought I wanted to do. And I was sort of thinking, well, I haven't worked in a full service agency yet. I want to make sure that advertising's really for me and copywriting's really for me before I invest the time and the money to go to portfolio school. So that's how I ended up in account management at a regional agency. And account management is pretty, I wouldn't say easy. It's easy to break into, but it's easier to break into.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
And it's it was valuable to sort of see all the departments, how they work together. It was valuable in the sense that I saw I did not want to be a copywriter. When we finally hired our first strategist, it was sort of like that nice hybrid of analytical and creative thinking, brought you closer to the creative process without having to be, I knew I wasn't going to be able to write 100 headlines a day or write a good campaign every single day. But strategy was a little bit more cerebral and original and creative. So I was like, how do I do this? And how do I do it not for regional accounts like the North Carolina County Fair or like the North Carolina Fair
Sure.
and aquariums? Like, how do I do it for Pepsi? Like at the time I was like, how do I do a Super Bowl Pepsi spot?
Yes.
And so she was like, you need to go to portfolio school. So
How long were you there as an account manager in that stint where you realized it's time to go?
I was there for 3 years, and I knew in the industry of advertising, I actually liked account.
Okay.
But knew I had bigger ambitions. Like I wanted to see my work on TV.
What clicked?
Super
Like
Bowl.
when did that click, and why did you say, okay, now it's time to go? Why not earlier? What was like at this moment, it's time for Kelly to go to VCU?
It must have been serendipitous. Like I didn't know what strategy was at the time that I was introduced to it in year 3 of account management. And the only reason and when she was just describing what she did, like the research, studying people, like studying culture, writing what the creatives work off of, I was like, that's the job. Like that's what I want to do in this industry. And it just like and then I looked at the application on Brand Center's website and the way they described strategy and what you should intuitively be interested in. I was like, oh man, that's all the stuff I'm obsessed with.
Yes.
And it just like spoke to my soul. Like Chapel Hill didn't have a strategy program, so I really didn't know what strategy was until like that 3rd year.
So you figured it out, then it wasn't to that moment when you figured it out, and then it was like, okay, I want to do this. Let's go do this.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know what maybe I was going to work at that regional agency forever and kind of like in the back of my head be like, man, I wish I was working for agencies that did Pepsi and Targets.
Right.
I have no idea how to break into those agencies, even though I'm in the industry.
So you went to Brand Center for strategy. I think a lot of people go to portfolio school. Brand Center is a master's program. I haven't had usually I try to get one rep from each portfolio school. I haven't had a VCU yet. So I'm going to need you to connect me with somebody from VCU as well. We'll talk later. But you went into it knowing you wanted to study strategy at VCU, or that was like the goal? And not a lot of people do that. And that today it's more, common to study strategy at a portfolio school. But so you went in to do that. How was that experience? What sold you on that? It's just the description that you just mentioned. How was it?
Oh man, the best 2 years of my life. And even filling out the brand center application, like it was just fun. Like, when things are fun and it doesn't even feel like a job necessarily, like, that's right for you. And that's what the application process was like. 2 years at brand center. It's the
It's a two
hardest I've ever.
year. It's a 2 year program.
2 year program, yeah, with an internship in the summer.
Okay.
It's the hardest I've ever worked in my entire life, including my career. They
Really?
Yeah, they push you
What,
hard.
they worked you or you worked yourself?
It's a little bit of both. They create an atmosphere of competition,
Oh,
high standards.
Miami probably does that too pretty well.
Yeah,
Well, it's a
but
master's degree, right?
mhm.
That's nice.
That's another reason I chose brand center. I was like, at the very least, I know this isn't a really applied degree, but at the very least, if I leave advertising, don't like advertising, I have a master's.
Well, I mean, if you were going to, copywriting or design, then yeah, maybe a portfolio would be more applicable. But if you're looking for that more, well, at the time you were looking for strategy, so the master's probably makes more sense.
Definitely.
Yeah. But you worked hard. And what is that, Richmond?
Richmond, yep.
Richmond's like this little creative hub in the United States that's just is a powerhouse for advertising. Maybe people should know this. Listeners should know Richmond's a powerhouse. But you got Martin Agency, you got Arts and Letters, I'm pretty sure is like a super creative little spot down there too, and then VCU. And it's like the Mecca. Like, get there if you want to get into strategy or if you want to break in real quick. It's like a little hack.
Yeah, Charles Hodges, who runs Arts and Letters, is a brand center alumnus, and I went
Mhm.
to his wedding. He's a great guy, and I'm so glad that his shop is doing so well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Martin Agency kind of spends off a lot of talent in that area too.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think people are drawn because of Martin Agency and Brand Center, and then they probably stumble into Arts and Letters and some of those other smaller shops there.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's really similar to the Denver market too, where there's
What
so
is
many. Yeah.
what's going on in the Denver market? I'm curious because I know Cactus is an agency.
Mhm.
That's the
Yeah,
only one I know, and Crispin, of course.
Yeah, so Crispin, everyone who leaves Crispin once they reach a director level or higher, a lot of them go start their own places in the area. So there's
TDL Boulder, is that one?
TDL.
Yeah, TDL I think is one.
TDL, yeah, I would say
Yeah.
work in progress is probably doing the strongest work and growing the
Is
fastest.
that who stole the pizza place, Domino's?
Correct. There's
I'm here.
another really cool agency, LRXD. They're all positioned around wellness and well-being and like happiness brands. And that's some former
That's good.
Crispin people. Yeah, I really like their positioning. I've freelanced with them a little bit.
Happiness? That's good. I'm a
Yeah, they're
fan.
known as the health and happiness agency.
Hmm. Yeah. But so Denver is similar to Richmond. I believe it. And the,
Yeah,
the creative.
yeah. Well, and from an advertising standpoint, like they were. Martin's a lot bigger now. Like
Yeah.
similarly sized, famous agencies. So they
Outside of like New York and like the big hubs.
totally.
Yeah.
They recruit super amazing powerhouse, ambitious talent, and when those people leave, they want to start their own thing, have more autonomy.
I hope Crispin is doing well.
Yeah, thank you.
Hmm.
There, not that I'm there full time anymore, but I think
Well, yeah.
everyone who ever worked there hopes that it will
Right.
as well.
Well, I think everybody that thinks Denver or Boulder or even Colorado in general advertising, that's probably the first one that comes to mind. I think Bogusky was like the first rock star creative. Like he kind of set that. And I was talking another episode about this. Maybe it was with Jesse and Heather. But yeah, he was like the first like real rock star creative, made it into like this like cool lifestyle, like that brought attention to the creative path.
Totally. So when I was in high school, before I knew I could do advertising, there were commercials like the VW Fast, which was just this weird commercial where there's like this ball in the center console of the VW that's not really part of the car, but all it does is go, and like, so for most of
Mhm.
the spot, it was just this fast humming, like at a low frequency. And that was it. And it was weird. And I was like, I love this. Who makes this?
Yep.
And it was Crispin. And of course, then I'm like, who runs Crispin? Who runs advertising agencies? Alex Boguski. So when I got to college, I had a picture of Alex Boguski on my wall next to my Radiohead poster. Like,
Yep.
no, like,
Yeah. Exactly. Like, I'm not surprised because he is like a rock star. Like a poster on the wall is not. I'm not surprised at all.
yeah, so that's how I ended up here. He had just come back and they reached out when I was in LA. And they were like, "Hey, Alex is back. We're looking for people in the strategy department." And I was like, I was not looking to leave LA at all. And I didn't know anything about Boulder and Colorado. Like, heard good things, but I was like, okay, I'm there if I get to work with Alex.
Sure. How did you get to LA? Because we left off in your story that you did well at Brand Center. Like, what were some of those like those big monumental moments in your career after
Yeah.
Brand Center?
Yeah, so back to your question on breaking in, like for me, portfolio school is a great gateway, because you're building network, you're getting really practical hands-on experience, so you hit the ground running in your first job. And I talked to this before. I've talked about this with the person who introduced me to strategy before I went to Brand Center. She was like, "You could do this without going to portfolio school, but it's going to take you a really long time." To network yourself into the agencies that you want to work for. So
Yeah,
anyway, okay, back to the question about how I ended up in LA. Yeah, I was recruited to Chiat. Um,
that's cool. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah, I thought I was going to end up in New York, but I'm glad it was LA. Um,
And VCU got you that, or I mean, not got you that, but that what made that connection that bridged that for you?
yeah, so I mean, I was at the top of my class, not the top, like top four, I would
Yeah,
say.
you're a
Um,
baller.
so the professors like kind of like people
Hooked
in
it
the
up.
industry come to the professor. They're like, "Who's good?" They're like,
Yeah.
"Here's the top. Here's the mid tier." Blah 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 blah. But I also had a mentor on a project at Brand Center my second year on my thesis, who worked at Chiat, and I think in working with her, she really advocated for me to work there.
How's that building?
Like that was walking into the building for the first time. I was like, this is what I dreamed of. This is
What's
what
it?
advertising would be like.
What's the quote? Like dogs are better than humans or something on the.
Yeah, Lee's, um, I always say it wrong. Purina. That was Purina, not Pedigree. Was it Pedigree?
Oh,
Pedigree.
oh, that was client work. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a
It was.
big Pedigree campaign called like Must Love Dogs or For the Love of Dogs. Um,
Mm,
that came out of it.
yeah.
But yeah, no, the Chiat office, I don't know if you've been, there's pictures
No,
of
I
it.
haven't. I haven't.
Yeah,
I've seen pictures.
you walk in and there's like billboards. There's like a park in the middle of it. There's the pirate basketball court. There's a surfboard bar. Um, yeah, it's sort of like what you sort of dream of it when you think of advertising as this sort of playground atmosphere.
Yeah, TBWA and then Widen, of course, is like the new biggest hit right now with everybody. I think the
Wyden's,
Portland.
yeah, Wyden's been legendary and the best for a long time, in my opinion. And that's in large part because they've maintained their independence and they're not owned by
Uh,
a holding company.
yeah. Yep. There's a lot to be said about being private. I mean, there's also an argument to be made that the resources and the togetherness and being able to latch to different strengths in a holding company could be good.
Yeah,
But
for sure. And odds are, I mean, most agencies are publicly held, and I know a lot are trying to create those kind of collectives and pool collective resources across the holding company in smart ways. So yeah, you're totally right.
if they
Um,
can figure out the process, because it's not easy when you have like 50 agencies and all different capabilities, and the client wants you want to like rip apart all these different agencies to meet the needs of one client. That can be when the process is there, I think there's companies trying to do that, but still a work in progress. Hinting to Denver agency. I don't know.
Yeah, shout out to work in progress. Yeah, you're right, and it's a similar sort of issue or bottleneck on really big accounts because a lot of times they have their creative agency, their media agency, their digital agency, their social agency, and you're trying to figure out how to really communicate and making sure like there's kind of creative continuity or like a master vision.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of doing their thing.
So TBWA. So you did the TBWA thing. So that was your break in. You broke in because you took some time. You graduated from a great school, great basketball school. Not this year, but you broke into a good basketball school and a good advertising or journalism school. Then you tried out the industry. You were at a place that gave you good experience. You were there for 3 years, and you don't regret being there for 3 years, right?
No, I think it was good foundational experience.
Any longer? Any shorter? Right,
I
or
I
sweet spot?
also I think that it also gave me the perspective of how you build relationships with clients because I could see how that all worked and how it influenced the way that we did things inside the agency. And I think going back to grad school at 25 after 3 years of experience, I had the maturity, I had the
Mhm.
ambition, I had like the experience to understand how what I was learning would be applied in an agency. So, maybe 1 year, 2 year,
Mm,
and I would have been fine at Brand Center. But I don't know, I don't regret 3 years.
okay.
I
No,
don't regret
yeah, it makes
years
sense.
either, but
What'd you
that's
say?
I said that's not something I'd recommend. Like you have to work for 3 years.
No, it's for you. Yeah, everybody's got a different path, but it's good to know. It's good to benchmark sometimes and to see what works for other people. That's why we have the show. And then you did well at VCU, and then through the grapevine, through your networking and the professors and your hard work, and you have that maturity too, which is at the time like you knew what you were doing. You were focused. You did it, and then you were recommended to probably one of the best agencies in the nation, if not the world.
You're so right about maturity. I think, yeah, if you're gonna go to a great agency, having that presence, being able to interview, in a more mature way, I think definitely helped me. When I talk to students in college right now, even high school students, even middle school students, like, I am always blown away by how much presence they have, like, self-assuredness, the way that they speak,
Really?
like yeah, actually,
I would have
and
thought like TikTok and social media ruined the youth, but maybe not.
I mean, when thinking about TikTok, like that content is sophisticated. I learned
Oh, I
so
love it.
much on TikTok, and like we were just posting drunk party pictures on Facebook. Actually, Facebook came out when I was in college, but in high school it was drunk party pics. But anyway, this is about breaking into advertising. So,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, so this is you just reminded me of something I think, as I'm thinking about kind of navigating your career and starting your career.
Mhm.
And again, this isn't something I recommend, but it is something that I think helped. The fact that I started at a fairly not fair a famous agency and just had that on my resume, whether it did good work or not, like it I know it accelerated my career to have that.
Yeah,
Um,
a good foundation, a great foundation.
the other benefit of going to a big place, again, became network. Like I met a lot of people at Chiat that, um, you know, later hired me at different agencies or that I still talk to today and network with today for freelance jobs. But
Yeah.
I'm also good that I had the reason I left Chiat was to go to a smaller place with smaller clients, so that I could get digital experience. So like in 2012, like everything was still so TV centric, which sounds so weird today.
Mhm.
But I was like, okay, eyeballs are going digital. I want to work on accounts that are doing more digital experiential work that doesn't look like traditional advertising. And that's how I ended up at McKinney,
Gotcha.
which had national names. And that's where I did, ironically, did the nationwide Super Bowl spot. But then I was
Right.
working on smaller accounts where it was, more non-traditional advertising.
Tell us about the nationwide Super Bowl. campaign?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that that's an amazing spot, but kind of cool that we had Mindy Kaling and Matt Damon. It got some attention. The funniest part about that year at the Super Bowl is Nationwide also had that dead kid spot. Do you remember?
Hold on, what? It had what?
They ran
What
two
year?
spots.
What year?
Gosh, it must have been 2013, 2014.
There's a what? I think I remember. Something's going on here.
So McKinney, I was the strategist on this or on their cause initiative for the Super Bowl spot.
Nationwide
And
boy.
we did like a bunch of exploratory focus groups to inform how we were going to talk about childhood preventable injury and death. And then before we even wrote the brief, before we got into creative development, they took the project and gave it to Ogilvy. And we were saying the whole time that we were like, childhood preventable injury and death is a heavy topic for the Super Bowl. You want to do this?
Yeah.
And if you do it, we have to do it in a way that's light. Like it has to be like Dumb Ways to Die. Like we're talking about the issue. But it cannot be a downer nationwide. So they yanked the project, sent it to Ogilvy, and I don't know why I shouldn't be like gleeful over this, but sent it to Ogilvy and then made the dead kid spot, and everyone in marketing at Nationwide got fired.
That's bad. That's bad.
It is.
What's the lesson out of that?
I don't want Nationwide to hate me for saying
What's the lesson out of this? Don't do a dead kid spot?
Yeah, for brands to check their egos and recognize the content or the context of where they're advertising and really think about the mood of people when they're going to in context that when people are going to see your work. I think Nationwide was like, we got to get the word out there that we're all about this cause thing. We do good things in the world. What better platform to do that than the Super Bowl? Everyone's going to be watching and they'll know that we have this cause. But then just did it in a real culturally unsavvy way.
Well, there's a lesson in that. And now we know. So we're learning. And that's what this is all about.
Clients. Just kidding. Cut that out.
What about, all right. So we talked about your break-in. We talked about a bunch of stuff. What, if you were to boil down some pieces of advice in the truest form to somebody looking to get into strategy, because that's the goal. If they're listening to this far, they want to get into strategy. To those people listening, what's some tangible, actionable items that they can take in their lives to do so?
Okay, so there's portfolio schools. I won't go into that. Like that's like the ticket and the gateway if you have the money and the time.
So it's a shortcut.
Yeah, so if you are looking for resources to learn more about planning so that you can speak to more experience and knowledge when you're interviewing or looking for jobs, Dan Carlton has a course called Planner U on Teachable. It's fantastic. I love the way he talks about, and he's talking about like how to write briefs. So like pretty.
What's it called?
Planner U.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, on Teachable. And nice. I think sorry, it came last minute, but I just sent you the link too, so you
have it. Yeah, keep going. What else? List it out. I mean, you don't have to list it. I'm going to post that, but any other things that you follow that or just like, advice for the students?
Yeah, I think taking any relevant classes on General Assembly could help too. And they don't have brand strategy or creative communication strategies specifically, but you can take things like digital analytics. I think there's social media strategy. So it's just sort of building out. I mean, that would illustrate that you are very interested in the industry and you're trying to acquire skills. It gives you, if you want to be a creative communication or brand strategist, it gives you more tools in your toolkit, so to speak.
Yeah, which are important.
Yeah, you're more of a lateral planner. Things that I follow that are free. Cassandra Report is great for just trends reporting and audience trends reporting. The Drum, if you don't want to subscribe to Ad Age. I would also recommend, if you're interested, maybe this turns into networking opportunities, but I'm thinking of it more for exposure to what's happening in the industry. You can follow influential planners on social media. So, and the way to find influential planners in the industry, I would say, is like look at the judges of the Jay Chiat Awards, of the F
Oh, smart.
Awards, or look at 40 under 40 lists and who's in planning, 30 under 30, and then just start seeing, what are they talking about, on what are they interested in, even if
Go
it's
on
not
Twitter.
something. For
If you can
sure.
get in the Twitter advertising world, and that's just by following those people, and then it'll start, the algorithm will work itself, and you'll be in that cultural context, which is pretty funny too, because they're pretty uncensored in Twitter. Like people are like, they crack me up.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then people, you might have already heard all the resources that I've listed, and I'm sure everyone has said this, but your network, like as soon as one person always at, if you're reaching out to say like, hey, can you tell me more about strategy and what you do? What's a day in the life? Always ask like, is there anyone else I can talk to learn more?
Yes. That's I don't think that might not be ever have been laid out before on this show. Is the
Cool.
ask at the end to who else you got? Who else
Yeah,
can I talk to learn more?
that's just like at bat opportunities to put your face and your voice in front of people, and maybe, it's just more at bats to get in
Oh,
somewhere.
I like that. Yeah,
And
you
it's
keep it
a way.
going.
Yeah, because there are so many blind applications to agencies. Like it really is, you really do kind of need to know someone or have talked to someone.
Yes. Yes. And
Uh,
if you could do that earlier, that helps, but not just when the job application opens.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's always, the possibility to start in account management or media and try to move over. I haven't seen that work. I've never seen it happen.
What do you mean?
In my experience, I've never seen anyone move from account management or media to creative communication strategy. I know it
How do
happens.
you, what do you mean? That's how I envision everybody does it. So it doesn't like,
No, it's like some lucky kid out of college gets a junior job and goes from there because they're an all-star, or they come out of portfolio schools, or it's someone who's been mentored by, they've been mentored through college and strategy, and that person knows the head of strategy, and so they get a
huh.
junior job. It's not that it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I've just never.
What do you mean? I get it all the time. What I do, I'll go up to the strategist in my company and be like, hey, I want to learn more. If you have any briefs or anything you need help with, she's like, yeah, I'll put you on. And then I don't follow up. And that's my fault. But if I follow up, I'm sure maybe there's some opportunities, even being in an account side. You're saying that's not kosher, that maybe that doesn't happen that often?
No, you're doing the smart thing, and what I would recommend if you're trying to do that,
Mm-hmm.
just asking, like going way above and beyond just
Mm-hmm.
to help, or just to ask to listen. Like, can I listen to how you guys develop this brief?
Mm-hmm.
Can I listen to how you're thinking about developing this discussion guide, or can I listen to the creative review? And yeah, I think that would sort of be the way in,
Hmm.
the subtle way in.
What about switching a job to a strategy job? What if you try to apply to a new one?
Like from a different industry?
No, from account or a creative role. Could you apply with that knowledge that you have at, you're either account or creative? Can you apply to another agency that's like a strategist position opening?
Yeah, it's just hard,
Hmm.
because you don't have the experience.
It's like this little niche, little bubble within advertising, which is already hard to get into.
Yeah, because I think we're looking. It's hard. Yeah, I think it's so hard to break into without going to portfolio school, honestly, because we're looking for people with experience for the most part, and that's so unfair. Like, but at the same time, like we don't want lemmings from these portfolio programs either that are
Hmm.
like, they only know like one way to do things. So yeah, it sucks. It is this weird discipline to get into.
So portfolio school is your main recommendation,
It is, yeah, and that's why I'm passionate about the Denver Odd Schools program,
which
um,
you run,
which
you help
I
run.
yeah, which I developed for better or worse. But I did it. I felt like I could do it. I raised my hand and volunteered to do it because I felt like I had that model from Brand Center. So it's very much based on the Brand Center program. But
Yeah.
the reason I'm passionate about it is because there's Brand Center and there's the Denver Ad School. And before that, there was really only Brand Center. Like Creative Circus, Miami Ad School's programs are a little subpar, although
Okay.
those are fine places to go.
Hot take. We love it on this podcast. Speak the truth.
I don't know that the industry looks at those programs as being top notch.
Okay. Definitely VCU. But you're making your claim towards Denver Ad School. So go ahead.
No, well, the way I look at it, because I love Brand Center, and I will recommend Brand Center as hard as I recommend the Denver Ad School.
Sure.
What I think about it as is like a lot of advertising sucks, right? And is terrible. So I think about it. I think about like, how do we get more inspired, bright minds into strategy, so that we can help influence better advertising? Not that creatives need that, but clients need smart strategists to sell the work too.
Sure.
So it's an entry point. Like, you only have 20 students a year at the Brand Center. Like, this is another entry point for students to really sharpen their skills, get some work down on paper, get the network, and make connections with agencies and get great jobs. And ideally kill it at those jobs. Because truly, I think the better strategy departments are, the better the work ultimately is.
That's a great point. And not all these portfolio schools have sound strategy built in yet, or they're not that great, but you're making your claim for Denver. So, because you built it, so you better stand by it.
It's a good, our teachers are awesome. Like, we have teachers from Wyden, we have the culture professor worked at Vice for a long time. There's teachers from innovation consultancies. As much as possible, we're bringing in lecturers or people to field projects and assignments from various agencies. So there's network in that way too.
Yep. And by the time students are listening to this, the Denver Ad School podcast will be available. It's already up, so go listen to that if you haven't.
Cool.
Nice. All right, cool, Kelly. That's all I got. You've done a great job. Is there anything else you want to say to the audience before we end it here?
No, it was so fun talking to you.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Can reach out. I'm happy to answer questions or talk.
Oh yeah, LinkedIn. Okay. What's your preferred method of if they want to connect and learn more about yourself or the industry or Denver Ad School?
LinkedIn's great.
Cool. Then I will post that. Go to our Instagram @enteringad. You'll see it in the bio. All is good. Kelly, great job again. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you all for listening to this entire episode of the Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast. I hope you enjoyed this week's guest. Make sure you go and connect with them on LinkedIn. Tell them that Breaking and Entering sent you. Now, thank you to Mikey Malarkey, our audio technician, and Buchan Zhang, our creative director, as well as the student team from the Midnight Oil Agency at the University of Illinois. Can't do it without you all. Thank you very much. We will see you all next week with another amazing guest.